And welcome to Thrift Shop Biography. This is the one about Paris Hilton. Thank you for listening. Hello, I'm Richard.
And I'm Cleo.
And welcome to our podcast, Thrift Shop Biography, where we go into thrift shops,
Find books,
and then read them and talk about them.
On this podcast.
I hate doing these beginnings.
I know. We've got to write it down. So
Let's just stop doing it. Let's just say hello.
Let's just stop doing it.
All right. Hello, Cleo.
Hello, Richard.
Hello.
All right. What did you read this week then?
Paris Hilton.
Me too. That's better, isn't it?
Much better. Much better, yeah. Paris Hilton, did you like it?
I love this book. I'd be like, why do I want to read a book about Paris Hilton? She's an airhead. You know, what do I care about her? Oh my God, she's not the person you think she is. So it was a massive revelation.
Yeah, I kind of knew that. I kind of knew there was always something below this exterior. I've always kind of quite liked her, but I was not expecting this book to be one of the best books we've ever read.
I know, it's really, really good.
It's really, really good.
Oh, what we've learned is, I know we haven't talked about it yet, but what I've learned is that it is a facade. The woman who's annoying, who's pink and, you know, what's that word? Fatuitous. Is that, no?
Fortuitous?
What's the word that means as light as a feather?
Facile? Insipid?
Vacuous. Yeah, fortuitous. What's that even mean?
It's a really good job we got a podcast.
Yeah, I know. Good job, we're so knowledgeable. Yeah, she seems vacuous, but that's actually an act.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And you could tell, yeah, of course she's going to tell you that, but no, because you really learn so much stuff in this book. It's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. It's like a defense mechanism. It's a trauma response. It's
all of that.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody doesn't know any of that, the truth behind the facade, we can tell you about it now.
Oh, my God. Yeah, so tell me, because we ask each other every week, what did you know about her other than being a fortuitous woman?
A vacuous, feathery pink girl. Yeah.
Is that it?
I did watch a bit of The Simple Life. Like, you know, I caught a bit in the 90s. It was huge.
Yeah.
She was always partying. And I did know about her schooling because I watched that documentary on it. So I did know that much. I reckon you put me onto that, actually.
Probably did.
You probably did.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm aware of her as a massive celebrity icon of the noughties. Yeah, she's kind of always been. Then she kind of got eclipsed a bit by Kim Kardashian, and then Paris Hilton went very quiet. And you didn't really hear too much about her for the last 10 years until that documentary came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's true. She's back with a vengeance now.
Yeah, she really is. It's almost like she went away, took care of herself, recovered from everything that had happened to her, and then has kind of come back as like this almost mother figure, the protector of party girls, influencer girls.
Yeah.
It's like some of this book, I think, reads as a feminist manifesto, but I think she's really taken time out and come back. She's so worldly wise. It's complete contrast to that image she had 20 years ago.
Yeah, it is. And yet she's still dressing up in all the pink and the lingerie, you know, and parading about with glittery stuff. So she's still got the image.
Yeah, because she can, yeah.
Because that's what she likes.
That doesn't mean anything.
Same as Dolly Parton. Yeah. We all know Dolly Parton's a genius.
There you
and
go.
a businesswoman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's on a par with that, isn't she?
Yeah, for sure. And I think as well, one of the reasons people look down on Paris Hilton is because she kind of gained her fame through reality TV. And people always think that is a vacuous genre. And so, but you have to think at this point, it's such a massive industry that actually the people who lead it, like Paris Hilton, like the Kardashians, they're actually very skilled at doing that. Yes. It's a skill set of its own, and it makes them millions and millions of dollars. So I think there's just a bit of snobbery around reality TV, which I think we need to get rid of now, 20 years later.
But yeah, on that reality TV, she portrayed herself as a completely dumb idiot. So it's her doing that people think she's an idiot. This book tells you she isn't.
Oh, come on. I've been dying to read about it. Let's do it.
Talk about it, do you mean?
What did I say?
Read about it. You've read it.
I haven't read it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about it. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Paris Hilton. Does she have a middle name?
Do you know what? If she does, I have not remembered it.
So she doesn't actually talk a lot about her childhood, really.
She really doesn't. Yeah, she flicks past her absolutely legendary family history, which is that her great-granddad is Conrad Hilton, who invented, built up the Hilton name and through hotels and real estate. So it's her great-granddad who invented the Hilton. And the very Hilton in Vegas that Elvis had his residency in. That was the first residency ever.
That was Conrad's idea?
Yeah, that was her great-granddad.
Do you know what? I had to fact-check that he was her great-granddad. I thought, oh my gosh, she's got this wrong.
She's got it wrong.
And I went on to Google trying to figure it out. I thought, no, it's just her granddad. Why is she calling him her great-granddad?
No, it's great-granddad. Yeah, there's 2 generations between them.
I couldn't figure it out because he only died in 1979 or something. And you think, well, that's just her granddad.
Yeah, it's so confusing. They probably had kids young as well. Because these men, who are mega rich entrepreneurs, they just marry and the women have the kids and they carry on.
Yeah, then they get staff to look after
so
them.
It doesn't slow them down. Yeah, so then their kids have kids young. So Conrad had Baron. He begot Baron, and Baron begot Richard Hilton, and Richard begot Paris Hilton. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and Paris was born in New York City in 1981.
She was. And it's very important to clock. It's a huge deal for her that she has ADHD. That really defines her, doesn't it? That's a big bombshell if nobody knew that.
Well, nobody did know that in the 80s because it wasn't really
Nobody did know that.
Thing.
Not even diagnosed.
Yeah.
No. And it really explains her and why she needed so much more than she got at school. She needed to follow, like the music and the dancing is an outlet for her. She couldn't be schooled, just sat in a classroom and taught. She needed to almost be schooled while jumping around and doing star jumps.
Right.
If you could yell like maths problems at somebody whilst they're being a cheerleader, she would be a genius. You know what I mean? You need mental and physical stimulation.
Yeah.
It's an overactive brain. Yeah.
So needless to say, she didn't do well at school.
No.
And her parents were constantly called in to say Paris is a problem.
Yeah.
But as we know now, it's because she had ADHD.
Yeah.
Do you know what? This whole era of kids, do you know what? Even things like dyslexia weren't really recognised in the 70s and
no, they weren't.
Before. That's like a genuine learning disability.
Yeah.
And that whole generations of people have grown up being told they weren't good at school, and whereas it's quite literally a condition they had no control over.
That's right.
And then ADHD is that thing. It's just having a classroom where you just have to sit down and learn stuff. It's not right for everyone.
It's not right for everyone at all. And all you end up looking like is the trouble person.
Yeah.
The one who's just disrupting. Yeah. So I don't know how a teacher manages to command a classroom of 20 or 30 people when everyone's got different needs. You know, it's not saying that they're failing. It's just that it doesn't work for everyone. Yeah. And it didn't work for her, and she ended up acting up. Well, it seemed like that. But of course, she doesn't understand it either. Nobody does.
I don't even think, she is being diagnosed as a naughty girl rather than having anything else wrong with her.
Yeah, that's it.
Her behaviour is just a manifestation of her condition.
Yeah.
And she's being treated unfairly because nobody's really getting what's going on other than she's a naughty girl. And of course, she comes from this powerful and rich family. They think she's a spoiled little bitch who doesn't want to do what she's told.
Exactly.
Whereas actually there's something wrong. Because throughout this, and I think this actually makes it harder for Paris, she's got a sister, Nikki, who's a couple years younger, who is like the model daughter, really. And so she's constantly, Paris's behaviour is kind of constantly compared to Nikki's behaviour. And Nikki is a sweet little girl who does all of her schoolwork and she doesn't get into trouble, she doesn't go out. It's really hard, I think, for Paris, who has this undiagnosed ADHD that nobody's recognising. They just see her next to Nikki and think, well, Nikki's a good girl. Why can't Paris be?
Exactly, yeah. It's mad looking at the two of them because they look kind of similar and you can't say one's more beautiful than the other.
Hey, so her mum, can we talk about Paris's mum and her sisters for a bit?
Yeah.
Because what I didn't know is that Paris's mom and her sisters, so there's 3 beautiful blonde young women. Also, when they were young, their mum was putting them into showbiz and getting them on Little House in the Prairie and modelling and Happy Days.
Yeah.
The clip of Paris's mum on Happy Days, I just watched it on YouTube.
Hey.
She looks exactly like Paris.
Wow.
It's very low resolution on the video. She's singing behind Susie Quattro.
Amazing.
Who's another Tuscadero. Yeah, it's a really cool little scene. But it's very bad resolution. But there's two blonde women behind her, and it's unmistakable which one is Paris Hilton's mum because she looks exactly like her.
Wow.
So these three sisters, Paris's mum and her sisters, had this kind of little show busy, like their mother was pushing them into showbiz and modelling and stuff.
Yeah.
And they were getting like little modicums of success. None of them really broke out and became a known name, but they were doing all right.
She was also at school with Michael Jackson and they were friends.
Yeah, I didn't know Michael Jackson went to school.
Yeah, they maybe did and then just had to come straight home.
Right, yeah.
There was that, I think, yeah. For a time, obviously, until they took off. Paris was doing all right at school until she started getting bullied and then her grades slipped. But she made one really great friend, which was Nicole Richie.
Yes.
Adopted daughter of Lionel Richie. Well, I heard a story about how she got adopted, which was that she was the biological daughter of a couple who were on tour with Prince.
Really?
But Lionel Richie was on that tour and was looking after her all the time and just sort of fell in love with her, and it was mutual. She was just a little girl, and then this couple just said, look, do you want to adopt her? Because we just can't cope.
Wow.
We're musicians, we don't, and sort of handed her over and he took her.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
Wow.
I maybe shouldn't be saying that on this podcast because I have to verify it, but that's what I remember hearing somewhere.
All right.
It's stuck in my head because it was a Prince connection. But anyway, she's adopted by Lionel Richie, who's a lovely man, but it means they're both a little bit unusual in their family background, let's say.
And they were kind of kept apart at times, weren't they? Because they were both seemed a bit naughty. I wonder if Nicole had ADHD. She had a whole set of problems, didn't she?
Yeah. Well, in the TV show later, The Simple Life, they said that Paris always played the beautiful one and Nicole played the trouble one, that got them into trouble. But it, like, you learn in this book, Paris is like really, well, she's physically fit and really devious. So the combination of that is like, she's like an escape artist. She could get out of anywhere. So they lock her in her room. So she was always out, even when they were locked in a hotel room, she managed to get out and go clubbing. So, yeah, you wonder if Nicole was just actually labelled as the trouble one, but actually was more innocent. You never know.
She was taking the rap.
Yeah.
That's how good Paris is, you see. She causes the trouble and she makes everybody think it's Nicole.
And she puts on a little baby voice and everyone thinks she's so innocent. She couldn't possibly be that devious.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know. You just wouldn't know. It's a revelation, this book. She's really tough. She's a real fighter. She's totally to be admired. I never would have thought I'd say that.
There is a work ethic that comes down through the Conrads. In the great-granddad Conrad, his sons had to work in the hotels as bellhops and janitors and stuff. He didn't just say to them, okay, go to the posh school, here's some money. When you grow up, you're going to take over management of this hotel. He made them work. And that went down through the generations. I mean, Paris does talk about the difference between men and women in the Hilton family, where the men are groomed to be the successful people and the women are kind of groomed to be the trophy wives.
Yes.
And she said that kind of only ended when she became a businesswoman in her own right. What's also interesting is because her mum and her mum's sisters had this period of time as young women and girls in the entertainment industry, she did not let Paris and her sister become models.
Yeah.
Well, when they were becoming 16, I guess it's that old thing of being a debutante on the social scene and stuff. When people started recognizing the Hilton girls as becoming young women, fashion designers and stuff wanted them for photographs and catwalk shows. And mum is like, there is no way you are doing that. You can do what you want when you're 18. Which does make you wonder. She says that her mum never has any horrible stories about the entertainment industry. But if she's not letting her underage daughters become a part of it, it does make you wonder that she's wise to the dark side of the industry. There's a reason why she's not letting them do it.
She must be wise because she was beautiful and a young girl once in a really predatory workplace. So, yeah, of course she knows.
Yeah.
She just doesn't want to tell him. And meanwhile then, here we go. She's 13 at school and a teacher latches onto her.
Yeah.
And basically, well, she got named finest girl at school, which is already dodgy. That means sexiest, doesn't it? Basically, finest.
Well, I mean, if it's other 13-year-olds calling her that, I think that's kind of okay.
But that was an actual label, like brainiest, finest. So anyway, an older teacher latches onto her. He was probably a young, older teacher, but, she's 13. She says it was the same as Elvis and Priscilla. It was the same age range.
So what pedo age range then?
Yeah, I can't deny it here or anywhere. Okay, and he's always telling her she's beautiful, blah, blah, and then he takes her out in his car when he knows the parents aren't in, kisses her in the car.
Yeah, totally grooming her, yeah.
Yeah, she's been groomed and she starts to harbour a shame. Also because he drove off and left her and never talked to her again. She knew she'd been used. There was no illusion of love or anything.
He only drove off and never talked to her again because her dad saw them together. Her parents
came
caught
home.
him
yeah, exactly.
dropping her off. That's why if that had never happened, he would have continued to see her.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew that what he was doing was wrong, obviously, and he got rumbled.
Yes.
But that left Paris a very confused 13-year-old girl.
Yeah, and really ashamed of herself, blaming herself.
Well, she was getting blamed, wasn't she? Because they sent her to a different school at this point, didn't they?
Yeah, she was.
And so because her being targeted and groomed by a paedophile, that was totally put down to her own bad behaviour. And then she was sent to live with her grandmother because of that. So she's being totally taken out of everything she knows, her school, her friendship with her sister, her family. And she has to go and live with her grandmother for the whole summer, and she didn't want to go. So, she's learning some really harsh, wrong lessons about being a young woman at the age of 13. Yeah. It's really horrible.
It is. It really is.
Yeah, so her being groomed was basically another check in the box that Paris is a naughty girl with bad behaviour. It's really unfair.
Yeah, and she says she feels like she really relates to Marilyn Monroe, who was molested by her aunt's neighbour. Then Marilyn chose to talk about that. And I was like, we didn't know about... She never told her sister, because we read her sister's book.
Her sister did not say that in her book.
She didn't mention it.
That is in the public domain. Well, there's so much contrasting stories of Marilyn's history, but it is on public record that the neighbour next door abused her when she was a girl, yeah.
Right. And Marilyn's a real hero of hers because I've looked at her TikTok account a lot, and you get sort of tours of the house and there's a lot of pictures of Marilyn. And she said, just like Marilyn, you have to choose whether you're going to be a victim or an influencer. Of course, Marilyn didn't use that word, but that's what you are in the end. And she was like, I'm going to be I'm going to get strong from this. I'm going to use this. But then at 15, it's a parent's worst nightmare because you can't keep kids locked up all the time. They're hanging out in the mall, her and a couple of friends, girls, and they meet a couple of older blokes who were just in their 20s, and she's 15 at this point and a virgin. And they'd met him a few times in this mall, and eventually they say, do you want to come back to our house? And they had a couple of drinks, and she got date raped, drugged and date raped. Well, it's not even a date, is it? She just got drugged and raped. And, she sort of woke up in a terrible mess, got herself home, and never told anyone. Yeah. And that's then inside her. At 15, that's a huge, huge thing to happen to her, yeah. It's life-changing for her, for anybody. And after that, she's had boyfriends and stuff, but she won't go too far with them. And then there's one boyfriend she was with for a whole year, and he started getting annoyed. And so she said the only way I could have sex was to drink, was to be drunk, and to pretend it was my first time to myself. She sort of blotted it out in herself that happened, because obviously she's got no actual memory of it, but she knows it happened.
It's devastating, isn't it?
It's dark as hell. Anyway.
I don't know. Like people, there's this public image of Paris, and I think it's so distorted to the actual woman. Like people did think she was promiscuous. People think that she did drugs and drunk a lot and stuff. And actually she was very, very average, if not demure in all of those things. She was not really a party girl, but she did have a public party girl persona, which we realise is a mask.
Yes. Well, what she said was, that like the first time they went to an after show gig, it was New Kids on the Block. She was 12 and they got invited to the after party. And it was just like a life-changing thing because it was a sensory match to her ADHD brain.
There you go, yeah.
The lights, the music, the dancing, it completely clicked. And that's her happy place, is dancing to music. And it gets her out of all the rubbish in her head and she loves it. But she didn't need drink or drugs because the dancing and the music and the lights were her drugs.
And the ADHD. So, she doesn't need it.
No, exactly. But really, it looks like this girl's off her head and wild and free, but she is, but she isn't.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because she's found her place effectively in a nightclub with lights and music. She feels at home. It makes sense to her because of her brain. This is the one environment where she feels free and everything's okay.
Yeah.
What's interesting about that is that she's basically has 100% turned that into a career. And really, it's like a kid latching onto the piano early.
Yeah, I know.
Or riding a horse and making a career in the equestrian world. Or even being a painter. It's just that Paris Hilton, the place that she clicks and feels at home, is a nightclub.
Yeah,
and
that's
she's kind of made a massive career out of it. That has to be applauded. But because we don't understand that, we just look at her and think, oh, she's a stupid party girl. Yeah. But actually, she's turned that into her skill. And she's now a multi-millionaire-esque because of it. I mean, that's really, really clever to have turned that into her career.
Yeah, genius.
Yeah, good for her.
She gets paid to have fun. Yeah, although it wasn't really making her happy. She says in this book, because there's so much down stuff, she says in this book, I did have loads and loads of fun. And then she just tells you all the dark stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess how much can you describe how much fun you're having,
I think as well, people who have a traumatic childhood in these episodes, but, being put in extreme danger and these really unfair things happening to you. Life isn't like that all the time. What are you going to do? You're going to be miserable for 10 years?
No.
Or do you counterbalance that by actually seeking fun and enjoyment? And that is what she's doing, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then she was sent to live in New York City in this massive apartment in the Waldorf.
Yes.
I guess that's the Waldorf Astoria, is it? Because it was actually her great-granddad Conrad had it restored, so it was a family hotel and they lived on it in a massive apartment. I can only imagine how gorgeous it was. So then she's basically bang in the middle of New York City, so she's hitting the town all the time. This is when she's skipping school, all-night raves, literally like going straight to school from dancing all night, all that stuff. And then after her 16th birthday, I think pretty soon after it, at 4:30 in the morning, and she's asleep in bed, two men burst into her room, grab her out of bed, handcuff her, and drag her out of her room. And she's screaming for her parents. And then she's actually just sees her parents standing in the hallway watching. And they just let her be taken. And can you imagine how traumatic that is?
Horrendous.
And basically, it's a cult school that was happening around that time. That they spent a fortune, like thousands of pounds for this kidnapping because they said this is what works for your wayward child. This is what they need. Just go along with it. And 2 years. There's a huge amount of it in this book and it's riveting to read it. It literally reads like a film. She made 5 escape attempts that were really successful. Just exactly like James Bond trying to break out of, the baddie's lair. She does it 5 times, but she gets caught every time. And literally, you could make a film of this. If there's a film of her life, this is going to be pretty exciting.
It's astonishing. She really does try and understand why her parents did it. This school is effectively like a hard labour camp for troubled teenagers. Not troubled, troubling teenagers, naughty girls.
Labour and the psychological torture.
It's bullying on a massive... Well, it's actual sexual and physical abuse of teenagers as well.
It's abuse.
And
it's abuse.
In this camp in the middle of the desert, it's prison, basically.
Yeah.
But the booklets and the information, it's kind of sold as this school, which is going to sort out your wayward children. But I don't know, that whole way that they just came and got her in the middle of the night, I mean, it's just... I really had trouble reconciling
barbaric.
it. And I kind of think Paris in this book really tries to understand her parents. And she said they've had a really hard time coming to terms with it. I think she's being very, very kind.
She is, because she basically says they've never apologised, they've never fully understood. They are trying. And I feel like she has to write half a book's worth of stuff in here to make us all believe what she went through. Because it's very important we really understand what she went through. It's really important for her that people know,
So, because we don't have a huge amount of time on this podcast, let's just kind of... So she's taken as a teenager in the middle of the night, and she's put in a bus and she's driven hours. I think they even handcuff her on the plane, right? Because she's embarrassed, because people are beginning to know who she is. She's the Hilton granddaughter, and she's in handcuffs on the plane. And then basically they do this induction where they give her a cavity search.
There's far too many cavity searches. Far too many.
Isn't there?
They're naked way too much.
Yeah, it's obviously sexual abuse,
The staff, male and female, standing there insulting all their bodies when they're having showers every single day.
And then they do this awful thing where they pitch the kids against each other and they all sit round in this circle.
Monster
and then one of them will
circles.
say the wrong thing, and the rest of them all gang up on one person and shout at them and call them names until they break, basically. And Paris Hilton is like, you're never going to break me. And because Paris Hilton never breaks, she's learnt to have this kind of mask, this poker face. And because she's
so tough.
Because she's one of the ones who never breaks, the teachers, the people who write really have it in for her. They make her life so hard there because she's refusing to go along with stuff. Yeah, and because of that, she's getting shut in solitary confinement. And of course, she has ADHD. It's torture.
Yeah, exactly. Torture. She always gets put in solitary after she's escaped, which 5 times in 2 years is a lot. But the rest of the time, because she's so bad, she's sleeping in a corridor outside of the rooms where the lights stay on round the clock. So she can't sleep. She didn't sleep from 16 to 18. It's like it is prison meets a madhouse asylum. So she made a documentary about it. I think it was called This Is Paris, where she just goes into it.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, I think.
Yeah, and I think you need to see it to believe it, because it was a whole cult of schools that were going around America in this time.
It's an industry.
They were evangelists. Yeah, Provo and Cedu, who were called.
Yeah, but also these horrible shows like Dr. Phil on TV, they would get parents with troubled kids and then they'd pack them off to these camps.
Oh, bloody hell.
And so it was a real industry. People died.
People actually were murdered.
Oh,
and when she escaped, they'd say, don't run into the woods because kids die there. And it was real. And they've proved it now. This isn't all nonsense, if anyone doesn't believe it, because you can look it up. It's between 1990 and 2007.
Yeah, there's a list of a few names in the book of kids who died at these camps. Paris Hilton names them. I mean, it's shocking.
Died of dehydration, died of a knee on the neck.
Oh, my God.
A lot of suicides.
Of course.
Left on the roadside. Just unbelievable.
It is that thing where the parents are groomed in a way to say,
they are.
This is going to be really tough for your daughter. When she gets to call home once every 2 weeks, she's going to beg and plead with you to come and get her. Yeah. She's going to say it's horrible. That's her lying. That's just a trick. Do not come and get her. So, of course, the times that Paris would do these thrilling escapes.
They're really
and
good.
Run 3 miles barefoot to the gas station and manage to do a return charge call to her mum and dad saying, come and get me. They then phone the centre and tell them where she is.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's right. And that happens over and over.
And over
her
again.
Parents, it's like a nightmare because your parents are the safe place. They're supposed to be the safe place.
Yeah.
And they're siding with the enemy. It's an actual nightmare. It's awful. But, oh, my God, there's so much admiration for that one. They were there. Those 2 handcuffed her on the plane. Then she used her baby voice to get out of the handcuffs so she could go to the toilet. And then she just waited and then kicked the toilet door open with her kangaroo thighs, she said, that was so strong from all the dancing. Like, smashed this woman's face and then ran for it.
I know.
She did so well at escaping. Gutting when she gets recaptured. It's gutting.
And every time she got sent, but sometimes she would like literally get on a plane and go to a different state. And then eventually, of course, she would get in touch with her parents. And every time her parents would say, she's here, go and get her.
Yeah, I know. It's awful.
Oh, do you know what? It's kind of like...
then she'd get beaten, like fully beaten.
Oh, because when she goes back to the centre, they have to make an example of her.
Yeah, of course.
They would beat her up in front of the other kids to say, don't run away. How all of these people just are in prison now is...
I know. Yeah. So anyway, that's the end of that chapter, right? There's like 5 chapters of that, but
okay. This is the one reason this book is fantastic anyway, but read it for this section of the book because it really is. It's kind of, I don't like to use the word thrilling because it's so traumatic, but it's
intense.
It's intense, yeah, and it's a bloody good read.
Anyway, she got released on her 18th birthday in 1999, and I mean, she couldn't sleep then. She certainly couldn't sleep in the Waldorf because that was where she got kidnapped from. So,
yeah. Oh my God, she had to go back into that bedroom. It's insane.
Yeah. So now, because she now labels herself a survivor, she's now drinking, taking drugs, doing anything to numb her experience. And also she's supposed to try and get on with her parents now. How do you build a relationship after that?
Yeah, I know.
It's nuts. And of course, because she's been naked so much, probed so much, it's absolute, like, she doesn't know who she is anymore sexually. She feels asexual. Her body wasn't her own anymore. It was public. It explains why she's sort of so naked, because she says, I don't care anymore who sees what. You can't see inside me. You can see all of my body. That really explains a lot. And you're looking at that person, and I did sort of feel bad reading this because I thought, I looked at her and thought she was just a really promiscuous slag out on the town, wearing hardly anything, judging her harshly and not having any clue what she'd been through. I felt really bad at myself.
Good.
And I did. I mainly felt guilty. I thought, God, you must never do that. You must never, ever look at someone and think you know. Mm. You know, we love Pink, yeah? Pink's amazing.
Oh.
But oh, do you not? But Pink came out with that song, Stupid Girl, you know. Push up my bra like that, didn't it? You know, it's like, I don't want to be a stupid girl. And she was singing about Paris Hilton. The video is clearly Paris Hilton.
I was really pleased when Paris Hilton called out Pink in this book. And she does it like she talks about her parents. She does it in such a generous way, saying that Pink really hurt me when she wrote that song. But, you know, you have to understand. And she was upset that Pink had done it because she loved Pink and she thought Pink was this big feminist icon. Well, actually, she was taking it all on surface and making fun of these girls. Yeah. And actually, I've loved Pink for like the last 15 years, but I think recently the problems are showing with her. I think she's a real hypocrite. Right. Yeah, I don't think she's as cool as we think she is. I think she's a bit bigoted in some ways, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, anyway.
And you've also got to say, yeah, I get it. You know, she did display herself as a total half-naked airhead. What are we supposed to think? Whereas Pink wants girls to know that there's an alternative. The girls could be a studious person or an astronaut, whereas Paris Hilton, as a role model, is saying just dress up and go out and dance. So I you know what I mean? You can't, you know where she's coming from. But knowing this now,
I do know that. But the thing is, it's just misogyny 101, saying if a girl's wearing a short skirt, then she's an airhead. And I think men say that all the time. So I think it's just disappointing when other women say it.
Yeah.
Because they should know they lived with those pressures.
You should be allowed to be whoever you want to be.
And in a way, you know, you could argue that Pink actually is quite masculine.
Yeah.
It's like she's indoctrinated herself with the patriarchy to be an acceptable form of femininity.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's like
fair.
saying just because Paris Hilton is more feminine, Pink's making fun of her. So in a way, Pink's response to Paris Hilton is actually her own internalized misogyny. There you go.
Ooh, yeah, that's a fair point. And I'm going to add this.
Yeah, go on.
Pink's probably been more naked than Paris Hilton ever has in her
shows.
shows.
Yes.
Yeah. She's just covered with little speckly bits and dangling off her trapeze half naked. So, touche.
So basically, if you incorporate being naked with a circus skill, it's okay.
Yeah. But you're intelligent. Yeah.
But if you
just go, hi, paparazzi, then you're not.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I would say I'm learning as well because I really felt shamed reading this and remembering my opinion of her. Not that you could have possibly known there was any more to it, but I did feel ashamed.
Did you?
Yeah, I did, because you don't know what's going on with people. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't judge anybody. There you go. And I did.
But I think that's a good thing to learn. And I think there are people who never realise that. There are people now who won't have watched Paris's documentary. They won't have read this book. And they'll just think that she is just still this socialite heiress who's dumb.
Yeah, they might.
And so people will always have that opinion of her.
That's true. Yeah. Anyway.
So where are we?
Okay, so it's year 2000, right? And she's turned 19 and she's doing a bit of this and a bit of that. She's moved in with a couple of Playboy bunnies, although she is being quite asexual at this time. But she feels like a performance artist because she doesn't care about her body as such on the outside. She could just give it all, wear anything. She feels really liberated in terms of art. And she meets David LaChapelle, which is a brilliant, brilliant meeting. That's what really makes her, because he's got such a sort of kitsch.
Yeah.
Like Americana, all the sort of pink and kitsch aesthetic that she is what he does with his photography. And the combination of them, those photos, I looked it up, David LaChapelle, Paris Hilton, I'd blow one up and put them on my wall. They're iconic.
Yeah, they are. They really are.
As her and her sister in front of a motel, a neon sign. It's just amazing. Her on the beach. They're amazing photos, and it really brands her. Brand is very important, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
And then she starts getting into magazines, Vanity Fair, publish these photos.
Those photographs really just, people kind of knew who she was, obviously. I don't think the world knew who she was, but people in New York society, the club scene, out and about.
Yes.
But these David LaChapelle pictures they got her out to the wider world. Yeah, and she's in magazines and people are just like, oh, okay. It's almost like, oh, she's arrived now.
Yeah.
And that got her a lot of attention.
Yeah, that really did it. Got her a lot of attention. She said her grandpa said, I used to be Conrad Hilton's son. Now I'm Paris Hilton's granddad.
Yeah.
That's big.
The Paris Hilton is now seeping out into the mass consciousness.
Yes. And then she gets offered a TV show in 2002. They want her and her sister, but they took her and Nicole Richie. Her sister said no. Her sister's just a quite normal person. Does a normal job.
Yeah, she is. Sounds really boring.
Yeah. Yeah. And they film it. It's called The Simple Life. They film it in Arkansas. It was everywhere at the time, wasn't it? You couldn't avoid it.
Yeah.
You couldn't not see it. Oh, what's it? Oh, the catchphrase, that's hot. I mean, and you wonder why we think that she's an idiot. Because all she said is, that's hot, all the time. And she even trademarked that amazing phrase.
I think the reason a lot of us have this idea about Paris Hilton being dumb, etc., is because of the persona I think she had in The Simple Life, and she really leaned into it.
Yeah, she did. That's what I'm saying. She put it out there, yeah.
But she's very, very funny.
She is funny.
So in a way, all she's doing is carrying on the tradition of the comedic dumb blonde.
Yes.
And she does it very, very well, I think. But other comedic... Well, actually, this is a Marilyn Monroe thing again, isn't it? It's another comparison.
It's exactly that, yeah.
People thought she was stupid.
Yes.
She was far from stupid. But it's just her public persona, which was some kind of mask, which is exactly what Paris Hilton is doing.
Yes, exactly the same. And she said they were supposed to be idiots, but they sort of turned it on its head and just made it funny, so it was a bit of a send-up.
Yeah.
And it was really popular, as we said. I mean... Yeah, 13 million viewers. So it was a big hit.
Do you know, I literally just went onto YouTube and watched a few clips and I laughed and laughed and laughed. I forgot how funny it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was really good. And around the time of this coming out, a sex tape was released. This bloke, a couple of years before, in her dark time when she was just released from the prison asylum, he was going out, they were a couple, and he talked her into making a tape, but it was just private. And they split up. And of
he
course,
was older as well, wasn't he?
He was a bit older, yeah. And she got really famous, so he sold it for a lot of money. And she'd actually phoned him up and said, please don't do this. Why are you doing this? It's going to his mine. It's my property. You can't stop. He's a real arsehole.
I mean,
real arsehole.
Do you know what? This is, again, an older guy taking advantage of Paris.
I know.
And then it comes back to haunt her in the most awful way. And you kind of think, at this point, we know now at this point. So back in the day, 20 years ago, all we knew was there was a Paris Hilton sex tape. Actually, it wasn't really. It was just a very short video that an older bloke had taken advantage of her and coerced her into being filmed for a bit.
Yeah.
So we unfairly think of her as making a sex tape. And then what also we know is this poor girl has been the victim of a paedophile. She's been sent to this awful prison school for 2 years.
Yeah, she's been physically abused, so her body has already been, passed around. Well, there's no other way of saying it. That's what's happened to her body.
Yeah.
And then somebody else uses her body and puts it out there for all the world to see. It's just like, bloody hell.
And this comes back to haunt her at a time where she has this very bad relationship with her parents. That they're kind of repairing their relationship. She's getting known. She's finally carving a career for herself. She's filmed this new TV show that's about to go massive. And all of a sudden, a sex tape comes out.
Yeah.
And everybody is so disappointed. It ruins her relationship with her parents. Again, it looks like the TV show might not even air because
that's
of the
she said
scandal.
It damaged her brand so much. She was getting advertising contracts, all this. She lost a mint.
Honestly, this poor young woman.
It's not as bad as what it psychologically did to her. And yeah, you're right. I didn't worry about her when that came out. I just thought she was out in the town. That was her life.
Yeah.
I thought it was just part of her life. That's the sort of thing she got up to all the time.
Again, it's totally shaming the woman, isn't it? Nobody says, what about the bloke in the video? What about the bloke who's selling it? What about him?
Exactly, yeah. Oh, yeah, Oh, poor girl.
But then, of course, there was such a huge amount of publicity to it, and everybody was interested in Paris Hilton for the wrong reasons. But actually, that added fire to the fuel of The Simple Life, and it made it a real hit show. Now, the shame of that is that it probably would have done that anyway because it's such a good show. Yeah, and Paris says she'll never know if it could have organically grown because of the scandal of the sex tape. She was the most famous woman in the world that week. So this is kind of almost predates the internet. We had the internet.
Yes.
But it didn't kind of go viral, as it were. So the guy made videotapes and sold them.
Yeah, right.
She didn't get any money. No. Like, people think Paris Hilton did that. But what's really weird is that he dedicated, at the beginning of the videotape, it's dedicated to the memory of the victims of 9/11.
Yeah, it's just wrong. It's wrong.
But it's just so utterly bizarre.
What the hell? What, he's trying to make it a charitable cause? It's insane.
Yeah. So she says that people think she was involved in it, but she's like, I would never have dedicated it to the victims of 9/11.
No, you read this book and you know that she'd never have done that. There's no way.
And, this is like, we read the Pamela Anderson book, and the same thing happened to her and Tommy. It's
very similar.
Yeah, because their tape was stolen.
Yeah.
And in a way, this, Paris had no control over this. Pamela had no control over a sex tape, which had them in it. They do not have the power to stop it. I mean, it's...
Talk about robbery. She was robbed all the time because, Facebook only launched in 2004, then YouTube 2005. It's so weird. She always puts it in there when all these things, tweets started after that. And she was hot onto every single one of those things. She was leading the way in social media exposure. She made a lot of money and was very clever at it. But she was getting robbed all the time because she'd go, hey, look at me, I'm in Maui or whatever, and then they just go and rob her house. I don't know why she didn't have security, the amount she earns. They made a film of it called The Bling Ring. I watched the trailer, and they actually filmed it in Paris Hilton's house.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got Isla Fisher in it, I think. Is that right? Something like that. Or is it? I don't know. What was her? She was really good mates with that circle. Oh, Lindsay Lohan and Britney and her. They were the three that were out all the time.
Yeah.
She actually said she really relates to her dad imprisoning Britney because you just can't trust your parents.
No, but the thing about that is, even though Paris Hilton turned 18 and got out of the prison school, there was this thing in the back of her head. Somebody said to her, just because you're 18, it doesn't matter. They could still get you committed to a mental asylum.
Right.
And then she was like, oh, so that's in the back of her head. And then when that happened to Britney, her friend Britney Spears, it's just like, wow, that could have happened to me. Well, it is what happened to her.
It could
My
still.
God,
you're not safe.
Britney Spears, Paris, isn't it?
She can be famous and rich and controlled by, you can't trust anyone.
It's like something the royal families used to do like 500 years ago, lock them in the tower.
Yeah, it is. Wow. Yeah, because you say she's repairing these relationships, but she wasn't really. She was on the surface, but not underneath, because she didn't talk about her past that time. She didn't talk about it to anyone. She had boyfriends that she thought she might have loved, but they're never going anywhere because she never opened up about those 2 years of trauma. She never talked about it.
Yeah.
Then around this time, 2005-ish, she got done for drink driving.
I hate
and
this.
They obviously just used her as a sort of, to represent all the party girls, You know, it wasn't fair. She got taken to jail for 45 days. And of course, then she has major PTSD, terrible flashbacks. She's hysterical. And nobody would understand. They just think, oh, spoilt rich girl is hysterical. There's photos of her being driven in the car crying. And you just,
well, you know.
Oh, no, poor you. But actually, we know what she was going through.
So she gets done for like driving with no lights on, which I maintain is a really easy thing to do with somewhere like LA where you're surrounded by lights anyway.
Yeah.
She's pulled over. She's taken to court.
She's right on the edge of the drunk thing. I think she had one cocktail. But she did admit there's probably quite a lot of times she drunk over the limit. It just wasn't this time.
But the judge, this old guy who's nearing retirement, sentences her to prison, which is a really rough deal for the crime. And he sent her to the maximum security county correctional where the violent offenders are. Now, he could have said, you know, she can be under house arrest or whatever. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he was nearing retirement. She was very, very famous at that moment in time.
Yeah.
And she thinks he did it for a last bit of notoriety.
Yeah.
She heard that when he walked into church on Sunday, he got a standing ovation.
Amazing. Yeah.
It's like people hated Paris Hilton and they wanted to bring her down. Anyway, so what happens? She goes to the county correctional, again, has cavity searches and stuff. So you're right. She's having complete
flashbacks,
PTSD, having panic attacks to the point where the authorities in the prison come in and see her because of how she is not coping in the prison. Her lawyer gets it back to court and she's allowed to go home under house arrest. When this original old judge finds out about that, he gets her back in court and he sends her back to county correctional where she goes through the cavity searches and everything again.
Insane.
That is beyond vindictive.
Yeah, it really is. Just a vendetta.
Oh my God. It's just so weird. This poor girl has just been so much trauma.
But she can't sleep anyway because she has nightmares when she's asleep.
I'm not surprised.
The jail just brought them back big time.
You know, before she went to prison, so she's sentenced to prison, and I remember this happening in real time. Paris Hilton is going to prison, and she's one of the most famous women in the world, and she knows the paparazzi are dying to get the shots of her walking into prison.
Yeah.
So her and her team try and hatch a plan of how to evade the paparazzi. And 2 days before the last, so you can volunteer yourself for jail. There's a deadline. And I think hers was, let's just say it was on the 5th of the month. So everybody thinks, well, she's obviously going to leave it to the last minute. 2 days before, it's the MTV Awards. And Paris Hilton and her team say, why don't you go? It's so high profile. Go be part of the MTV Awards. Afterwards, obviously, there's loads of after parties. You're known as a party girl. Everybody's going to assume you're going to be at these parties. The paparazzi are going to be so busy taking pictures of everyone. But actually, what's going to happen after the MTV Awards ceremony, while the after parties are going on, you're going to run over and get into jail while all the paparazzi are very busy at the MTV Awards. So that's a really good plan, right, to trick the paparazzi.
Yeah, brilliant.
But what happens is, and I remember this, and I remember feeling so awful watching it, Sarah Silverman was hosting the MTV Awards. Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie are sat in the audience. Sarah Silverman comes out and she says, Paris Hilton is going to jail, and the whole crowd cheer and whoop.
That's awful.
And the camera is on Paris Hilton, and you can see she is trying so hard not to break down, but she keeps this steely face on. And I just thought, my God, this poor woman is back. Remember in that prison school where they used to sit around in a circle and they used to try and make them break each other.
Yeah.
That's happening right here at the MTV Awards. And then Sarah Silverman continues to make fun of her. And everyone's laughing. There's a clip on YouTube. It's so difficult to watch. Honestly, Paris Hilton just is being tortured her whole entire life.
Yeah, again, I know. Because in the book she says, I'm not going to say any more about this. But do you remember sort of at the time thinking, that's really funny, she's going to jail?
No.
Or did you feel sorry for her at the time?
Yeah, I did actually. I just thought it was really unfair. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. That's good. She's apologised since a lot, apparently, she says in this book.
Oh, Sarah Silverman is so problematic. She's best friends with Sacha Baron Cohen, who we know is a wrong'un because we just read Rebel Wilson.
Yes.
No, I don't like either of them. At the time, I thought they were both really, really funny because they kind of objectively are. We've read Sarah Silverman's autobiography, by the way, back in the day. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, years ago, yeah. The Bedwetter.
That's right. Oh my God. If we were doing podcasts back then, we'd have like 1,000 episodes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, the way that I've turned around on Pink and Sacha Baron Cohen, I've also turned around on Sarah Silverman. I think there's a real meanness to her comedy, actually.
Well, I've turned around on Paris. She's my hero now.
Well, there you go. Isn't it weird how time really sorts out the heroes and villains?
And information. Yeah, we didn't have all the information.
Also, around this time, people did love to hate her or just hate her because she was in a horror film called House of Wax. I've seen it, actually. She's very, very good in it. But on the poster, it just says, "Watch Paris Die."
Oh, wow.
And she says she's not naive about that.
Yeah.
She knew that the whole film was marketed on the fact that people didn't like her and wanted to see her die.
Oh, it's awful. Wow.
Honestly, my heart goes out to her.
Oh, man. And she's made a lot of money. But money isn't going to make you happy in these circumstances. Also, we know she was going out of town where she had an amazing group of friends. She says they weren't just actors or musicians, they were all sorts of creative people from behind the scenes, and a really amazing amount of incredible people that were her circle of friends. So, she did have support and good times away from all this crap. But no, I want to talk about her businesses because it is amazing. Because she went to Ibiza just for fun and then saw the DJ, how the DJ was God. And she thought, I want to be that person because she loves music and she loves clubs. So it's the next step, really. So she spent hundreds of hours learning to DJ, and I've watched her online. She's so good. I mean, that sounds patronising, but she's a proper DJ. You know what I mean? So she's there now at Ibiza, DJing properly, really good, and controlling the crowd, because if anyone knows what they need, it's her.
Yeah.
Where you go with that feeling, where you're going next, how you're feeling, she's totally in tune with that. She should be a DJ. So she learned it. She gets paid $1 million per gig.
Yeah, she's a big deal now. And it's kind of a world that I know nothing about, but I understand that she's massive and respected as a DJ within that.
Yes, respected because she's got the right brain and the right love for it. Like you say, she's made a career of being paid to turn up at parties. She might as well be controlling the vibe because she is the vibe. She's gone with it for so long.
I love that as well. I also think there's another level to it in that she brings everyone together.
Yes.
She collectively, through the music, everybody out there on the dance floor, she's in control of them and she's making everybody have the same experience and come together. And I think her whole life has been about marginalizing herself and telling her that she's wrong and pushing her out. And actually her response to that is actually to bring everybody together.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and she truly loves it. But no, I've got to say this. She said she had so many businesses. The fragrances alone bring her in 3 billion.
What?
Billion.
Wow.
Yeah, and she says she had 19 other lifestyle brands, including skincare, shoes, clothes, handbags, lipsticks, home decor, pet fashions.
Of course. I love that she loves animals.
I know. Yeah. Real estate, including spas and nightclubs. She even bought her own hotels. She writes and records music. She shoots movies. She gets paid to appear anywhere she goes. It's incredible, right? And I remember her saying when she was younger, she said to her dad, I want to own my own hotels and make millions and millions of my own dollars or whatever. And her dad went, yeah, okay. So she's done it. As a girl, she's the one who's carried on the Hilton name the most. Before that, it's all been the men. And she's done it. And then, nearer the end of this book, she's never been happy in a relationship. She's never been truly happy. Right. This is the only good thing that came out of her jail time. When she was in all that solitary confinement time, when she was in asylum prison, the only way she mentally survived was she took herself into a dream world where she, in her head, imagined the future she wanted. And it was amazing, huge houses, beautiful houses, pools, a successful business, blah, blah, blah. Right? And she dreamed it up, and that's what saved her from going insane. Right? Then when she was back in that jail, years later in solitary, she went, right, I'm going to remember that and go back to that place. She went back to it and realised that all of those things she dreamt have happened. That's exactly, her dreams have come true. So why isn't she happy? And that was a real turning point to her. So when she came out of that prison, she realised she had to do something more than just get all that stuff that she had, all those businesses, all that money, billions. So she actually started to talk about her experiences. Which gave her confidence over time to open up. So by the time they got to make that documentary, it all just started flowing out. It was supposed to just be a light documentary about her, and it became this real exploration into her past and the dark side. She just spilled it all out. Once it's out, the next boyfriend she has, she can tell him about who she really is and has the first real relationship of her entire life, which is her now husband. And he is called... what's his name?
It's irrelevant.
Carter. And he's an adventure capitalist. And now she can be a real human. Now she can actually really repair a relationship with her parents, because they can start to actually understand what she went through. She can fall in love properly, and she has children now. She really tried and failed and had miscarriages, and eventually went to, what do you call it? Where you put your things in somebody else.
Oh, surrogacy.
Surrogate, yeah. Oh. And she's now got 2 lovely kids. And she's now I think, now you must be happy. She dropped the baby voice. She said, I don't need that anymore. I need to be real for the first time. And this all happened around COVID time. It wasn't that long ago. So, you know, she could only be happy by just being real. And now she's a real Barbie doll person, because she still looks stunning. And now this is good. She's written this book. It's all out. And I hope she's happy. I think she could maybe have a chance at actually being happy now.
I think this book is way more important to her sorting her life and her head out than a baby and a man could ever do.
Yes.
I think this book is so important.
Yeah, you're right. Just by being truthful.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, you couldn't have a baby and a relationship and make that work unless you'd done this journey. I think that the one leads to the other.
Okay, yeah, you're right, actually, because the baby, etc., comes after she's finished writing this book, really.
It does. She was working on it near the end of the book, and she was finally happy right at the end of the book.
Yeah, and then there's an extra chapter at the end. You know what? She does talk about the woman who wrote this book with her ghostwriter. She calls her a boho grandmother.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that vibe throughout this book. Like, Paris Hilton has had these awful things happen to her. A lot of them are decisions of her parents. And she's so generous when she talks about her parents, trying to rationalize it from their point of view, how it must have been for them.
Yeah.
And I think this is a real spiritual thing. It's like, I think she's trying not to hate her parents, not be resentful for her parents. I think she's still got a long way to, because she's so overly generous. I think anybody else would have said, honestly, just fuck my parents.
Yeah, I know, seriously.
And Paris is just being so magnanimous about it.
But she does love them too. Yeah, she's trying to understand.
It's difficult, isn't it?
I know. She's bloody been through it, that's for sure.
I think she's an incredible woman.
Me too. I never thought I'd say it. Did you?
Yeah, I kind of did. I always knew there was something going on. And I've always kind of been interested in her just because I'm interested in celebrity. And I always kind of thought there was more going on with her.
But you just didn't know. Yeah,
I didn't know the extent of it. My God, I didn't. This book is just like episode after episode. It's astonishing.
We've even missed out an abortion at some point.
God.
Somebody like her, that's devastating, you know. She probably cries when she clips a dog's toenail, you know. And now I'm putting her down, but she literally is that soft on dogs.
I mean, we've missed out so much. This is, again, it does happen quite often, but I would say anybody listening, like, even if you weren't that interested in Paris Hilton, this book is above and beyond that in terms of a life story. It's essential reading. I think you just literally need to go and learn more about this woman who had an extraordinary life.
Yeah. And I think you're right. It would go on the feminist syllabus.
It should, yeah.
It really would. You could study this. Yeah. Oh, her house has just burned down as well.
Oh,
there's
my
the post
God.
Chapter.
Oh, what? In the fires? Did it really?
Yeah, it burned down, yeah. Now she's going around rescuing dogs.
Oh, you see, she loves her animals.
Yeah. Anyway.
Paris,
feminist icon. Who thought you'd say that?
I know.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Thrift Shop Biography. We love making this podcast, and we're absolutely thrilled that so many of you are already listening. you could really help us out by leaving us a review somewhere, wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you could share us, tell your friends about us, or drop some links on social media. We have a Facebook page called Thrift Shop Biography, so make sure you come over there to hear about the episodes first and what else we're up to. Okay, see you next week. And if you're new here, there are loads more episodes now to go and listen in the back catalogue, so make sure you go and enjoy them. Okay, thank you very much.